everybody, welcome to April's bullet journal theme. I know, what are we doing? How is it April? Let's run through what we've got going on. I'll come back to what we're using. So, here we go. This month's theme is cherry blossoms. So I absolutely love cherry blossoms and I keep on saying I want to get one to have in our garden so that every spring I get to see the prettiness, but that's where today's inspirations come from. So let's have a little look at the template. We've got our cover page. I'm just going to zoom in a bit for you. There you go. So cover page, as usual, I've given you a plain and a design side. And then we've got our week to view. Prettiness, all the pretty. And I'm not a, do you know what, I know I say this, I'm not a pink girl, but there's something about cherry blossoms. Cherry blossoms in white are also just as pretty. I just love them. They're gorgeous. So we've got all of our weeklies, just with a little bit of cherry blossom on each day. Just a little nod to it. And then we've got our habit tracker and our mood tracker, which is close-up branches, and you can fill in. It's actually one full flower per day, but I quite like having the extra bits to colour in because it's nice to colour them in first and then fill in as the days go on. So that is the template. So let's have a little look again at what we're doing. So we're using, I will put all the colours on in the comments, but I've got a light and a dark pink, and I've been using a kind of dark red coloured pencil just to give a bit of detail because I didn't have the right colour pen, so I raided the kids stash. I've got a dark brown for the kind of twiggy branches and a green just for the odd leaf here and there, and I've been using the black Tombow for the titling, and of course I'm using the monthly stamp. So let's have a little look at what we need to do. So here's my test page to show you what we're doing. I will be, when I do the template, I'll be doing the outline of the twigs, and I would recommend doing pencil just to see where you want your branches. So say we're coming in from the side and we've got kind of twiggies coming off like this. I'm going to use the pen without making any pencil lines for the florals. So all I'm going to do is a petal shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that gives me the basic. I've also got ones that are on their side, so we've done this kind of before where it's a trumpet, and just doing kind of trumpet shapes, tulipy, like so. And that's really all I've been doing, because the rest of it is just adding in detail. So that's how we're starting. Give it a minute to dry, and then I'm going in with my slightly darker pink and just adding a little bit of detail, so some inner shading like that, and some detail there as well. And then the pencil, let's zoom in a bit closer for you. Oh, let's just focus the page. Are you going to focus? There we go. So then with the pencil, and I've made sure it's super, super, super sharp, just so I can get some kind of like detail coming out from the middle, and then some on the outside there. And depending on the kind of position, I've done some which are kind of darker in the middle. And also, if you want, you can use the same lighter pink just to kind of go over that and blend it out a bit if you wanted. And that kind of, this way, gives you a bit more focus. It almost looks like you've got a bit more coming from there. So that's how I've done the florals. I've done them large here, just so you can see, but as you kind of zoom out, you see they look quite pretty. And you can add in the odd leaf, just here and there, not many. And then we're going to use the brown to do our twig shape. So I'm using kind of the flat edge of the brush and just doing a really kind of wobbly line and then tapering that line as you come to the flowers, and then through and doing that all the way to the end. So that's kind of the method that I've been doing. I wanted to do, just to show you that we're doing the flowers first and then adding in the twigs, because otherwise I think you'll find that you're not going to be able to see your flowers. And you can just add more details, and you can, if you wanted, you can fill in the twig lines a little bit closer. If you've got the Tombow pens, you can use the other side just to get in closer, fill in a bit more detail. And then that one's going to come to there. And obviously when we're doing the real one, I'll show you, we're going to do a lot more kind of clusters of flowers, but that gives you an idea. And you can also do, I've done some kind of falling petals, so it's just like a teardrop shape. And then using shading, you can do darker pink at the top, or we could do somewhere the petal is darker towards that petal edge rather than the inner edge. And the same with the reddish kind of purple pencil. You can add some kind of detail there, or you could add it to the tip. And that is really all we're doing, which I know I've made it seem really simple, and you might be worrying a little bit, but there's nothing to worry about. Shall we go over the petal shape just one more time? So you've got, let's do it even bigger. So you've got a basic petal as one of your shapes. I've done it quite big there. You can make those more rounded, fill them in a bit. It really doesn't have to be anything too perfect. And then the darker pink, we're going to do an inner. And with this one, you can just give it some petally details coming out. And then using the pencil just to give it a bit more definition. And that's how we get our petal and our kind of detail on our pretty pink. And again, you can go in and just, if you wanted to, give it a bit more shading with going over the pencil, make it a bit darker. So that's one shape. And then the other shape we were going for, so if you wanted to do it, we're doing that kind of trumpet. So it kind of comes out and you've got, like, that's the shape that we're heading for. And you've got to think, because I'm doing this larger, I'll do it a bit more detailed, but you wouldn't need to do this much detail when it's small because we just don't see it. So say you've got some petals and they're angled that way, and then you might have some other petals that you can kind of see behind it a little bit, and that's it. And then the same thing again with the highlighting. So on this one, I'd probably put the petals behind in a darker shade, just to give it a bit of detail in, and then give that. And then going in with the pencil detail, just to give the petals a bit of shape. And again, you might want some heavier detailing on this behind to make it look like it's more in the background than foreground. And then maybe this one would have some leaves, and that would be it. You've got to think, when this is reduced down really small, you really will see the detail. It looks so pretty, and that is where we're going with it. So let's have a little look at the actual template. So there's not actually a lot on the template because, again, I really liked last month's minimal March look, and I'm really liking this, especially if we're just getting to grips with being a bit more creative and doing some more kind of drawing rather than the kind of doodly artworks that we've done in the past. If this is feeling a little bit scary to you, you don't have to worry because there's only a couple of floral bits to add in. So if you are new to using our templates, you won't know about my little hack, which is adding pencil to the back. So I would shade onto the back just where we're going to copy through, and then that means that when I go over the lines, it'll just transfer a very faint pencil line. It just gives us an idea. It's great to give you a guide, just to show you where you need to go. It gives you a bit more confidence when you're putting the pen to the paper. So let's go ahead and do that. So as you can see, it's a very faint line, and I haven't drawn any florals in. I've just done a guideline for the branches. So what I find quite handy is to keep the template close by. So I'll be keeping this just out of screen over there, just so I can kind of visually see where I need to put some florals in. And as mentioned earlier, we're going to do the light coloured florals first. So I'm going to just kind of make a start on dotting in. I will speed it up a little bit because we've kind of run through how we're doing the flowers. So I'm going to go through and just dot in where the light pink will be, and I'll join you on the other side. So zooming out, as I don't know if you could notice, but it was almost, when you're dealing with them on this size, it's almost like I was just doing kind of little scribbles, just as kind of notes of colour rather than detailed petal shapes. I'm going to put the detail in more when I go over with the pencil markings. So that's our basic pink in. I'm gonna now go through and just add in where I feel like we need some kind of darker tones adding in. So I'll zoom in a little bit and start a little bit before I speed the camera up, but I've got kind of some details on these ones that are on their kind of side that I want more in the darker colour, and then this one is kind of semi on the side, so the inner bit there, can you see that? Just zoom in a bit. The inner bit there, I'm going to add a bit more of a darker colour. This one's on its side as well, so I'm just going to put a bit more dark in there. And then this one, these ones here, a more full-on, it's not quite zoomed, there we go. So I'm going to add in like a central marker to those, and I'm just going to go through the whole of the florals that I've got so far and finish this off. So I'll speed it up again and zoom out a bit so you can kind of watch what I'm doing. But they're very sketchy at the moment, almost blobs of colours. I think you can probably see that. Really didn't need to go in because they're so much smaller than those kind of trial ones, the tutorial ones that we just went through. So actually I did end up just doing more kind of just plonking colour shapes on than the actual detailed flower shapes. We'll go through and do that with the pencil afterwards. So yeah, I'm going to just speed the camera up and I'll go through and finish this detailing. Okay, so again, just adding splodges on. So that's where we're at. And now I'm going in with my kind of very nice sharply pointed pencil, and that's where I'm going to add in some of the detailing. So have I zoomed in enough? Let's see if I can do a bit more. Doesn't like going in too close today. Can I get it to focus? There we go. So yeah, the detailing on this one, it's going to have a bit more of a kind of stalk on it, and then come out to some petals there, and even maybe some stamen in the middle, and then just the same, especially these ones on the sides. I want to give them a darker effect to them, and maybe they've got some stamen in the middle. Is that what they're called, stamen? I think that's what they're called. It's been a while. And then you can see a bit more detail on those ones there. That's what you really need to do. I know sometimes I just kind of, yeah, just do that, and I make it sound easy. Being somebody that's from a creative background, but hopefully you guys find these tutorials are not as difficult as you think, and hopefully you push yourselves and feel, actually I can do this, because you can, you totally can. These flowers are so small that it's just really a nod to getting the level of colours right and the tones of that kind of cherry blossom tones of the pinks with the darker, it's that darker cherry colour, isn't it? I guess that's what this pencil is. It's almost like that cherry colour pencil, just gives that little bit extra detail to these florals. But to be honest with you, they look just as pretty without the darker detail. And maybe you've got a pen that's the right colour and I didn't, so that's why I went with the pencil. But I actually think the pencil's quite nice because it just gives it a bit of texture. So I'm going to continue working my way through adding the detail on. So let me just zoom out for now and I'll speed that up and we'll meet you on the other side. Okay, so I'm happy with the kind of shading and where we've got to there. I'll zoom in just to show you, these are not like perfect looking. They're just kind of squashes and squiggles, and there's some kind of outlines of petals, but really it's more about getting the colour and the shading just to give you an idea of those blossoms. I'm just going to pop in just the ever so odd leaf, and it really is only going to be just 1 or 2 dotted around, just popping out from maybe where the busier areas are. There's a few more, but there really isn't many leaves on this blossom. So if you do have any lovely blossoms around, if you notice, they don't often have many leaves. So I'm just popping the odd one in here and there, wherever you fancy, but we do try and balance things out a little bit. Okay, I'm happy with that. And now the next part is my favourite bit. So we're getting that brown brush side of the pen and doing our kind of trunky branches. So I'm starting with the wider, flatter stroke and then tapering it off. If you don't feel confident, you can always just do a finer line and just go back and thicken it up. So we've got one coming through there, and then these ones up here are a lot more finer, so you can use the brush tip if you don't feel that confident. You're just doing a very light touch. That's what gives you the finer. You really don't touch the pen to paper much. If you feel like you can't control the pen that way so much, you can always use the fibre tip end. That's going to give you a finer line. So we can go in and add those finer lines if you're using the felt tip pen. And I do love the Tombow because it gives you the option. It's 2 pens in one. 2 for the price of 1. It gives you the option to do more painted effects with the paintbrush side, or to use the fine liner side. So I'll always stick to the Tombows. I have tried other pens and I just land on these all the time. I just wish I had more colours. Definitely going to add in some more colours this year. I kind of have been sticking to all of the colours that I already have, but I'm going to add a few more in to my collection. So we're just going to keep on adding in these squiggly branches and filling up the page, and it's slowly going to start to take shape. As you can see already, it's really starting to look like a cherry blossom, and it's those kind of squiggly branches that give it the extra detail. So as you can see, I'm kind of stopping when I see a flower and then continuing after the flower, because we want to keep it as light as we can possibly do. We don't want to go over any of our pink. So I am using the finer side to the pen now, because we're getting into the very outer lines now. So they're getting finer and finer as we go. And then we've got this one over here, which isn't too thick, but I'm just going to do a little bit of a thicker branch to it, and then taper that off as we come to the end. Let's just swap the brush tip on this one. And I already had a faint line, so it makes it a bit easier. I kind of know where I'm going, but also you're kind of following the line of flowers as well, so that makes it easier because you know you've got flowers in that direction, so they're going to need something. There we go. And that is how far I've got. And we've got a few petals that are kind of falling from the cherry blossom, raining down. I know there was, I was very tempted to do a rain theme because it's been quite wet this week, but I did do, last April, I did do a kind of April showers Easter bunny theme, so I thought I'd do cherry blossoms this time. So I'm just going to put in my titling, so I have got a faint outline for that. And we're doing April. You can fill out however you want to do with the month at the bottom. So you can do it per square, you can copy and trace it from my template, you can cut out from my template, or if you prefer, like I do, to use the monthly stamps, I just need to take off 31 because we are 30 days in April. And then we'll just kind of place it down there, give it a squidge, and ta-da, as such, honestly. I don't think I'll go back to writing them in. I did used to write them in. So that's where we're at. Let's zoom out and see our page. There we go. You can fill in more falling blossom petals. You can add more in. You can put some coming from the other side. You can do whatever you like. But that gives you an outline of how to do this month's tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. Go get creative and tag me in anything that you do. I can't wait to see it. Have a great month.